So Betty, let's talk quickly about the USFL Championship. I saw the Philadelphia Stars win their game, and then I saw, I think it was at the Birmingham Stallions. I saw them win their game, and they play this coming Sunday at 7:30 for the championship. So, it's almost like with your tournaments where you get to watch the team because they all play at the same field. So they're literally interviewing guys from the Stars like during and after the second game, which was the Birmingham game.
Right.
The one thing that we saw out of both games when you put it together, I think I saw 3 kickoff returns, which were really important in these games because in many cases they were at sort of a impasse, 13-7 or 13-13, and they just couldn't get offense going. And then Zoom, these guys come flying up the field on, I think there was punt and maybe a kickoff return, all for touchdowns, 2 in the Stars game and 1 in the Birmingham game. And as I look at it, okay, we're in Philly, so, I'm not a homer, but I would tend to want to root for, the home team in that case, the Philly Stars. Birmingham has 2 things going for it. Number one, I think they score more. I think they're a better offensive team. The quarterback for Birmingham played for the same coach in college. So the system and the coach are very familiar. And he is more of an option type quarterback. He will run the ball. He's not afraid of contact. You're not going to slide all the time and all of that. But he's a little more dangerous in terms of that. The Philly Stars, again, had it not been for those kickoff returns, they would have lost that game. They didn't look as efficient and ready, to score on offense, especially in the red zone. Things kind of, you move the ball, between the 20s, you get down in the red zone, and all of a sudden things falter. So that's the one thing is, again, familiarity for Birmingham. And 2, they got a receiver named Mitchell. So I'm like, they got a Mitchell on the team. I might have to root for those guys. I don't know. Should be an interesting game, but from what I've seen, I'm giving Birmingham the edge here.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I haven't watched a whole lot of USFL football, but I did watch some. And I must say, I was pretty entertained by the games that I watched over the course of the season. I did get to watch the Stars a couple of times. I was impressed with the continuity with which they played on offense. They may not be spectacular, but they were solid. I thought they were very good on defense. I think that defensively, they'll be able to give Birmingham some trouble. And because I'm not usually a homer, I'm going to be a homer on this. Also, let's remember the 3 years, was it 3 years previous that the USFL existed?
Something like that.
The Philadelphia Stars are previous champions. So this will be an opportunity for them to get a second league championship. Even though there's been a lot of time in between, it's still USFL, and they were still USFL champions.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective there. I hadn't really looked at it like that. Now, I'm always looking at the players to see who looks to be NFL ready. And that's going to be very interesting. The funny thing is the team, who was that, New Orleans, I think that Birmingham was playing, their quarterback, I was really impressed by his arm. The arm was lively. The decision-making was a little questionable, and he had a few of those throws where it's like his receiver was kind of covered, but in the NFL, the good receivers make that catch, you know what I mean? And they didn't have that. necessarily.
Right.
Some of those running backs were like, man, they looked strong. You just don't know if they look strong against that competition. You know what I mean? Versus the other competition, some of the tackling was questionable, you know. So that was kind of what happened with that. They have here's the NFL. I mean, excuse me, the MVP. I didn't mean NFL. The MVP for the USFL. Kavante Turpin. And I think he was one of the kickoff return for touchdown guys.
What's his position?
I think he's a running back.
Okay.
But I also think he returns kicks.
Okay.
Their coach of the year was the New Jersey Generals head coach, Mike Riley. I know you know that name.
Yes.
College. So, and then he got beat by Philly Stars. So, the head coach didn't do too good. We got some of the top 15 players here. I don't know if you recognize any of these names, but just for people to take a quick look at to see if anybody gets an opportunity with an NFL team. Jordan Ta'amu, CJ Marab, Marable, Maribel, Kayvon Walker, Devontae Bousby, Taywan Taylor, Avery Genesee, Eli Rogers, Marquise Lucas, Chris Odom, Kyle Sloter. I think that's the one I was telling you had the live arm.
Okay.
Very live arm. Davion Smith, Scooby Wright, Brian Allen, Kyle Lauletta, and Channing Dribbling.
Some of the names look somewhat familiar. I may have heard them or seen these guys play in college, but I noticed one guy that I definitely knew. That was Kyle Lauletta, the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Maulers. Kyle Lauletta was drafted into the NFL by my New York Giants in 2018. He was a 4th-round pick. He backed up Eli Manning and backed up Daniel Dimes. I keep calling him Daniel Dimes. It's a habit. Daniel Jones. Yeah, I know. He's got to earn that one. That's another story. But anyway, he's bounced around with a few other teams, and he's been on some practice squads, but he saw an opportunity to get himself a starting job and possibly catapult himself back into the NFL, if with nothing else, at least another backup job. The fact that he got drafted into the NFL to begin with gives him some credentials, and turning out to be a top 15 player in the USFL doesn't hurt, I'm sure. I didn't look up his statistics, but he's a top player in the league, so I'm assuming that some teams are watching him. This could possibly get him back into the NFL, but I just thought that was interesting that here's a guy with NFL experience already choosing to go to a lesser league to try to bolster his career.
Yeah, and you know, Colin Kaepernick keeps popping up in my head, and I keep thinking, man, you know, if you know, you take a guy like, you know, Kyle Lauletta, right? 4 years with your Giants, okay, and then between 2020 and 2021, he was with the Eagles, the Falcons, the Browns, and the Jaguars. The Browns 3 times, or in 3 different arrangements. One, like for example, practice squad, SFA twice. So he's bounced around, and in 2021, was it 2020? Was the last check that he got. He got paid. He earned $100,000 from the Browns, but he earned no money in his contracts with the Eagles and the Falcons. He earns, it says amount earned 0, and then with the Browns, Jaguars, and Browns again, amount earned 0, and everything says status terminated. So not sure what, you know, what he's missing in terms of, you know, his quarterback capabilities. at the NFL level, but he's been an NFL backup quarterback. And like you said, he didn't have a problem going and playing with the USFL. And I said this about the CFL as far as Colin was concerned. Go there and tear it up. Let people see what you look like in action. You know what I mean? Not just throwing the ball, and to an uncovered, nobody's got gear on receiver. You know what I mean? And that would make, I just think that would make so much. I mean, people want to see you get hit, get up, show some grit, all the stuff that comes along with, with football. Oh, by the way, I did see some really awesome hits in those semifinals.
Yeah.
Yeah, a few bone rattlers for sure, So those guys are out there, man. And they were playing at the Hall of Fame in Canton Field, the Hall of Fame field in Canton.
Right.
So, and both teams played there. That's how they do it. That's how they saved a lot of money, is by keeping everybody in one field. I heard one guy say it was a little weird staying in the same hotel room for like 10 weeks. Yeah, that's got to be strange. But congratulations to these top 15 players. The number one player being Jordan Ta'amu. Surprised you didn't hear his name. His name sounds familiar, but I can't say I really know anything about him. So being that he was listed as the number one player, we'll definitely keep an eye on him as far as what happens as we go into the preseason, and then they're still making moves and things of that nature. So, all right. Fantastic. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm probably gonna. Well, my rooting is split between the Philly Stars, since we're in Philly, and the Birmingham Stallions, because they got a guy named Mitchell on the team. But just watching the game,
You're thinking, so shallow.
We got to keep it in the family. Keep it in the family. But I actually think the edge goes to Birmingham. I think they have a more potent offensive attack. And again, their quarterback played quarterback in college for the coach that he plays for at Birmingham. So they know each other very well. Matter of fact, it was really funny. They had one time when the clock ran out, the play clock ran out, and they got penalized. And he was pissed. The coach was pissed, and so they were all around, I guess he had called it, timeout or whatever. They were all over there surrounding the coach. And he's looking at the guy and he's like, I know you know better, like that. And the guy just kind of put his head down on the coach, like leaned his head into the coach, like, oh, But he took it like a man. Coach dug in his butt, and he took it like, and he like, okay. And he went out there and he finished. But option type quarterback, not afraid to get hit, more potent offense. And you still got that potential on both sides for a kickoff return. So keep your eyes open when they kick the ball, because anything can happen. All right, USFL. I'm going with Birmingham as the favorites to win this game.
And I'm going to go with Philadelphia, which friends of mine will be surprised because, I am not a homer. I normally do not root for Philadelphia teams except for the Sixers. However, let's remember that the USFL actually started back in the 80s. And back then, I kind of did gravitate toward the Philadelphia Stars. And in fact, the Philadelphia Stars have won a few USFL championships in the past. So although the league hasn't been around for years and years, they actually have a chance to get their third championship. I did forget one year where the Philadelphia Stars actually had to move to Baltimore, rename themselves the Baltimore Stars because, they played during the spring and they couldn't work things out at the vet with the Phillies. So they had to move to Baltimore. So, yes, they are league champions 1983, 84, and 85. Wow.
for
So
sure.
I'm looking for the Stars to keep it up and do it again.
Going with the Stars, eh? All right.
Yes, sir.